Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Barrel Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile for January 2021. Want to do an update to the Barrel Dragon deck for a good while now. It's actually been one of my more popular decks on the channel, being the main, cards used by Bandit Keith. We were given a pretty good amount of support back during the Ancient Millennium Duelist pack. These cards were also recently reprinted in the Legendary Duelist Season 1 pack, making the deck more, affordable to build with a good amount of the cards being reprinted in that pack. So let's go ahead and get started with the update. Like I said, it's a really, really fun deck for sure. Those who don't know, all this new Barrel Dragon support works very, very well just to special summon out and then use the coin flip abilities of these cards to destroy your opponent's cards on the field. So starting off with the deck profile for the monsters, our main go-to boss monster in the deck is Desperado Barrel Dragon. If a face-up dark machine monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn, during the battle phase quick effect, you can toss a coin 3 times and destroy face-up monsters on the field up to the number of heads. And if the result was 3 heads, you draw 1 card. This card cannot attack the turn it activates this effect, and if it is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 7 or lower monster that has a coin tossing effect from your deck to your hand. So not only does it have search power for some of the other monsters we run in the deck, it also just has great setup for destroying a good number of your opponent's monsters on the field, and a very easy way to special summon this card since the majority of the monsters that we're running in the deck are all dark machine type monsters. So you definitely want to max out these numbers for this card to always have the option available to you. And then we're running other cards to help support the whole, concept of the coin flipping that this deck is meant to use. For some of the other Barrel Dragon support, I'm also running 2 of the original Barrel Dragon. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, toss a coin 3 times, and if you do, destroy it if at least 2 of the results are heads. So just a smaller version of the Desperado Barrel Dragon in terms of destruction. I can even consider, if you want to drop this card down to 1, I have it in the deck also because of the fact that it is needed as one of the fusion requirements for Gatling Dragon, with the other one being Blowback Dragon. But once again, just another card to easy special summon onto the field with some of the other spell and traps we're running in the deck. But like I said, there's one card that you could potentially drop this card down to a 1 of. If you wanted to increase its number, we'll go over those cards when we get to the level 4 monsters. I also run 2 Blowback Dragon. Once per turn, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, toss a coin 3 times, and destroy that if at least 2 of the results are heads. So it's basically just a lower level Barrel Dragon. Still a little more easier if you have to rely on tribute summoning this card out, just needing the 1 tribute compared to Barrel Dragon, which needs the 2, but basically being the same card and just having more and more search options for Desperado Barrel Dragon with the coin flip options, and Blowback Dragon basically having just a little bit lower attack, way lower defense, but still a great card to set up for all of the coin toss power. For more support for basically summoning out these cards onto the field, I also run 3 BM4 Blast Spider. With this one, I thought it was Fighter for a second, but Blast Spider, the remade version of Launcher Spider. Once per turn, you can target 1 Dark Machine monster you control and 1 face-up card your opponent controls, destroy them. If a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle or card effect and sends it to the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of one of those monsters destroyed and sent to the graveyard. You can only use this effect of BM4 Blast Spider once per turn. So this is your go-to setup card for your Desperado Barrel Dragon. The fact that it'll target a card your opponent controls and one of your own Dark Machine type monsters means it'll destroy your Blast Spider and then give you the option just to easily special summon Desperado Barrel Dragon on the field, giving you this boss monster on the field while also taking out a monster your opponent may have. It'll make your opponent go on the defense since they'll have to set cards to avoid it being destroyed by Blast Spider. And also having 2200 defense means you can have this card set in defense and play that defensive round if your opponent doesn't have any monsters for you to destroy with this card as well. And for more setup with the deck, I also run 3 Jack Wyvern. You can banish this card and 1 face-up machine monster you control, then target 1 dark monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use this effect of Jack Wyvern once per turn. So with the majority of the boss dragon monsters we've had in the deck so far being the dark monsters we'll summon out, being able to rely on Jack Wyvern with some of our lower level cards on the field is a big plus for sure. All you have to do is you banish this card and a face-up machine, which is all of the monsters that we're running in the deck. So a real big plus there for sure for that setup. And I also have 2 Twin Barrel Dragon in the deck. When this card is summoned, you target one card your opponent controls, toss a coin twice, and if the result is 2 heads, destroy it. It's more of a risk card for sure, because both of the results have to be heads, but we have other cards, like I said, when we get to the spell and traps to help set up that support. If you want to run a 3rd copy of this card, just being another easy level 4 monster to summon out instead of having to rely on the tribute, you can drop down either the numbers of one of your Barrel Dragons or one of your Blowback Dragons for a 3rd copy of this card. But that's basically player preference at that point if you do want to run 3 copies altogether. And then having a little more consistency with the machines that we run in the deck. I also, to finish off the monsters, run 3 Black Salvo. When this card is normal summon, you can select one level 4 Dark Machine monster from your graveyard and special summon it in face-up defense, but its effects are negated. So you have plenty of targets in the deck all together with Twin Barrel Dragon and Jack Wyvern, and also your BM4 Blast Spider, giving you options for synchro plays with these cards, or even a few link plays, depending on what you may want to go into. Using this card is a great resource for sure, because you should always have those cards set up from either using their own monster effects or just, late game setup. Drawing into Black Salvo will open up more and more extra deck plays for you to use. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 Heavy Metal Raiders. The first time each Dark Machine monster you control would be destroyed by battle each turn. It is not destroyed. And if you took battle damage from a battle, it gains that much attack after damage calculation. And it keeps that attack as long as this card is on the field. And once per turn, if a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster destroyed on the field by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Dark Machine monster from your hand. So with this, the more resources you have, or lower level monsters that get destroyed on the field, you can bring out the heavy artillery having this card set up. You almost always want to have Heavy Metal Raiders on the field to use, because this is the card that will give you your resources on the field for you. Also, boosting up their attack is a big play on the fact that Bandit Keith used Metal Morph to transform the front and center card here, which is Zoa, into Metal Zoa, and then just going into more and more powerful machines after each and every one, which is what he did basically in his duel against Joey, going into Slot Machine, Pendulum Machine, a Barrel Dragon. He had a load of machine monsters what he went into, and that's basically the play that Heavy Metal Raiders sets up for you. So you definitely want to run 3 of it. It's not a search card, but it's one that will keep your plays going in the deck. And all of the monsters that we run in the main deck are Dark Attribute. So just to help with some of the draw power and having multiple machines in our hand, I run 3 Allura Darkness. Just being able to have that draw power for the Banish, and the fact that it's not a once per turn if we just need to keep going through more and more monsters until we hit the right ones for our combos. This one is a big help there for sure. And I run 2 limiter removal machines, and just boosting up the power of that machines and then destroying them to give us potential, added effects with Desperado Barrel Dragon is a big plus for sure. That's why I like to run the 2 of this. I thought of running 3. If I were to do so, I'd probably drop down 1 copy of Allure Darkness, but I was pretty comfy with the 2 in the deck for now, giving all the power boosts I need to especially go for game for a lot of the plays. And I ran Polymerization in my last deck profile for this deck, but I decided to switch it up and go with 2 Super Polymerization. You have multiple targets for this card in the deck in the form of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, needing 2 dark monsters on the field, and Gatling Dragon. So depending on which one you want to go for, you can have your boss monsters on the field attack, and then use Super Polymerization to go into even bigger fusion monsters from your extra deck on the field as well. And I also run 2 Foolish Burial Goods. We'll go over this card when we get to the traps and our main boss monster trap, which is Proton Blast, setting it up in the graveyard for some pretty important plays, especially with our coin tosses. So I like to run 2 of this just so we always have that option. If it's not in the graveyard by its own method after being activated, we have the option to send it with Foolish Burial Goods. And then moving on to some of the one-ofs for these spells, I run 1 second coin toss. As long as this card remains face up on the field, you can negate the effects of a card requiring a coin toss once per turn and redo the coin toss. So you really do bet it all with some of your coin tosses in this deck. So this card, as a one-of continuous spell you can just have on the field, definitely does come in handy. I also run 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Terraforming, and 1 Instant Fusion, with Heavy Metal Raiders being a field spell. The Terraforming is pretty much a given. And Instant Fusion, I really do like it for one of our fusion options, which I'll go over when we get to the extra deck. And Monster Reborn, there's no special summon limitations with any of the Barrel Dragon monsters, so just being able to summon them back onto the field to reuse their coin toss, even after, let's say, you use them for an extra deck play, you can then summon it back onto the field and have that resource ready to go. And then moving on now to the traps. One of our main go-to ones is Proton Blast, a continuous trap. Once per turn, if an activated card effect tosses coins immediately after it resolves, apply the following effects depending on the number of heads. If it's 1, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. If it's 2, destroy 1 card your opponent controls. If it's 3, you look at your opponent's hand, discard 1 card from their hand, and when an effect is activated that tosses a coin 2 or more times, you can banish this card from your graveyard to treat all results as heads. So the fact that all of them will be heads mean you can have, power plays, especially with Desperado Barrel Dragon, getting all 3 of the coin tosses, destroying 3 monsters on the field, or even just resolving your Twin Barrel Dragon to destroy a card. You have plenty of options with Proton Blast on the field and in the graveyard, because then using the banish and having one on the field means that you'll be able to use all 3 of these, taking a card away from your opponent's hand and also boosting up by taking damage to your opponent, and also destroying a card added with the other, barrel monsters, destroying monsters on their own. And then lastly, along with the Monster Reborn, I find Call of the Haunted really, really good in the deck for the fact that if your opponent destroys one of them, you can just resummon it back onto the field and then attack your opponent again with that monster, and then just have more and more plays to go into. And the fact that Twin Barrel Dragon just says when it's summoned. So even if, let's say, your opponent destroys it, you can summon it back onto the field with Call of the Haunted and then reuse the coin flip and destroy a card that might disrupt their own play during their turn. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. Our fusion monster is Gatling Dragon. Once per turn, you can toss a coin 3 times and destroy as many number of monsters on the field as possible, but not many more than the number of heads. So with this, you have more and more destruction for those monsters, and it doesn't, specify any limitations with your cards. You just need a Barrel Dragon and a Blowback Dragon on the field to summon it out. If you want to go for more of the hand play and not rely on them being on the field with the super polymerizations, you can always try the polymerizations and then just rely on, fusion summoning them from your hand instead. But with the Evilmater Raiders and the Call of the Haunted, there's a good time when we have both of them on the field and the multiple attacks. That's why I was trying out the super polymerization for those plays. For the instant fusion, I have 1 Panzer Dragon. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. So even if you destroy your own cards, you'll still benefit from, let's say, cards like Desperado Barrel Dragon, especially with this card. But just being a fact that with your instant fusion, when you activate your instant fusion on the field and summon that card out, it's destroyed during the end phase, giving you the Panzer Dragon boost as well to destroy another card on the field. Like I said, it can be one of your opponents or one of yours and benefit for some of the Barrel Dragon destruction plays. And then I have the 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. We have a pretty good amount of dark monsters in the deck, so even if you go for the Black Salvo with one of your machine monsters, being able to use these 2 cards as a fusion material is another added option. And that's why I'm also running the 1 Predaplant Trivo Veritum, being the fact that it needs 3 dark monsters and just another boss power monster to go for the fusion plays if you don't want to go for Gatling Dragon or Panzer Dragon, or just don't have the monsters on the field to go into those monsters. For the Synchro monsters, I run 1 F.A. Dawn Dragster, good for the spell and trap negation, 1 Darkstrike Fighter, more burn damage. Just remember the errata with this card means it's a once per turn use, and 1 Black Rose Dragon, more destruction. Level 7 is what you're going to use for most of your Synchro plays. That's why I kept them all as the options in the deck. And we do have a few level 4 monsters, so I'm running 1 Abyss Dweller and 1 Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. Destruction options and shutting down your opponent's graveyard were my main reasons to choose these over some of the other cards for the Xyz options. For the Link monsters, I run 1 Barricade Board Blocker for the Heavy Metal Raiders, a Field Spell Recycle, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice with the Dark Attribute boost especially, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and 1 Borreload Dragon to finish off the Link monsters for the extra deck. You usually want to go for the fusion plays, but it's just nice to have these resources, especially with cards like Black Salvo being an option to go for some of the very important Link monsters. And as for the go-to plays, like I said before, if you set up with one of your Twin Barrel Dragons on the field and you have your Heavy Metal Raider all set up as well, the first time each one would be destroyed by battle. It's not, and if you do, the basic boost that it'll receive from that damage is a big plus for sure, but also once per turn, if a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine destroys a card on the field by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Dark Machine monster from your hand. So with this option, with the monster you control, that was the Dark Machine monster, being able to destroy a card on the field will activate, being able to then summon out another monster which then, if you have it in your hand, just as an easy special summon on the field, and then being able to use this destruction effect as well. Just remember that Heavy Metal Raiders is a once per turn, so you'll still have this boost of a monster on the field that you can then once per turn again after the next turn if your opponent is able to destroy the Twin Barrel Dragon and you have your Call of the Haunted set up on the field. You can either wait till your opponent tries to attack your other monster and then activate Call of the Haunted, summoning out your Twin Barrel Dragon back onto the field. Going for the coin flip, and if you have cards like Proton Blast in the graveyard, being able to guarantee the coin flip with those is a big help there for sure, but also the fact that your opponent will want to watch when destroying these cards, because you could potentially have the Desperado Barrel Dragon in your hand instead, which then you can summon out after that card's been destroyed, but they'll still have to get around the Heavy Metal Raiders card, which will protect those monsters for a good while on the field as well. And that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. The best and most fun part, I'd say, about the Desperado Barrel Dragon deck is just having fun with the coin flips. It's a deck that, takes a lot of risk with the coin flips destroying cards, but that's where most of the fun comes out of each game. Also, you never know how each game's going to go. It all depends on if you have the proper setup, the proper playstyle, and depending on what plays you want to go for. There's plenty of extra deck plays you can go for, but also just relying on your big coin flip boss monsters for a lot of the destruction plays and then just swinging into your opponent as well. But until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.